The first time I saw him, I thought I was dreaming. He appeared in the dim glow of the docking bay, surrounded by whispers and wide-eyed guards who dared not approach. There was an aura around him, heavy with authority, danger, and something else, something magnetic that made my heart beat faster despite my better judgment. His armor shimmered with an almost organic energy, flowing across his body like liquid steel. The galaxy had whispered stories about him for decades. The warden of the outer systems, a man who could topple governments with a word, who had survived assassination attempts that had killed entire fleets. And now, by some impossible twist, he was standing before me. "I need to know," he said, his voice calm but resonating with the power of command. "Do you know who I am?" I didn't flinch, though every instinct in my body screamed to cower. I met his gaze and let my voice carry. "You're the one the galaxy fears, and the one I want." The silence that followed was thicker than any armored wall I had ever seen. He tilted his head slightly, eyes narrowing, trying to read me, and I realized I had not given the answer he expected. Most people would have begged, cowered, or stuttered. Not me. "You're bold," he said finally, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "Very few dare speak like that." "I've had practice," I replied, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "And I don't intend to fear you, at least, not more than I already do." He laughed, low and unrestrained, a sound that echoed off the docking bay walls and sent the guards scrambling for cover. But he did not step away from me, not even slightly. "You have courage," he murmured, "or madness. Perhaps both. Or perhaps just honesty," I countered. The journey to his ship was tense. He had given me no choice. The moment we made contact, his fleet had already locked onto my transport. Resistance would have been fatal. Yet he did not order my capture or execution. Instead, he offered a private shuttle, a route through the outer void that bypassed every potential threat. I watched him work, calculating, precise, lethal in a way that made every movement seem choreographed. I realized he was not just feared for his power. He was feared because he commanded respect without ever demanding it. He didn't raise his voice, didn't shout orders, but the entire crew moved as one at his slightest motion. "What are you thinking?" he asked suddenly, as if reading my mind. "About you," I admitted. "About how terrifying you are, and yet, how I can't look away." He froze. Then, almost imperceptibly, a grin crossed his face. "Dangerous words." "Perhaps," I said, "but true." For the first time, he hesitated. I saw it in the tilt of his head, the narrowing of his eyes. He was assessing me, calculating if I was a threat or an ally, or perhaps something else entirely. Once aboard his flagship, I began to understand why he was the galaxy's greatest fear. Every system he touched obeyed him. His word could start wars or end them. He had survived betrayals, rebellions, and invasions that would have ended anyone else's reign. And yet, for me, he seemed human. "Why me?" I asked one evening, as we stood on the observation deck, watching the stars streak past at faster-than-light speed. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved closer, and the warmth of his presence made my chest tighten. "Because you are not afraid of me," he said finally. "Most fear me, or they grovel, or they lie. You are honest. You are human in a way that even I cannot resist." I swallowed. "Even though I know what you've done, the lives you've ended?" He didn't flinch. "Yes, even though you know. You see me, not the legend, not the fear, but me. And somehow, you choose to stand beside me." "And I do," I said, "because you're the one I want, not the one the galaxy fears." His eyes softened, just slightly, but the edge of danger never left them. He reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from my face. "Bold," he murmured. and perhaps foolish. Most humans would have died from this proximity. I know the risk, I said, and I accept it. Days passed. Space was silent, but tension crackled between us like a live current. He allowed me access to his command deck, explained his strategies, and shared the stories of wars I had only heard whispered across the galaxy. I listened, fascinated and horrified, but never judging. And with every story, every confession, I saw the layers beneath the myth. The man who had once wanted only to survive, who had learned ruthlessness to protect the innocent, who carried the weight of entire systems on his shoulders. "You trust me," he said one night, as we watched a planet burn in distant conflict. "I trust what I see," I replied. "Not the fear. Not the legends. You." He turned toward me, a hand resting lightly on my arm. Few have looked at me and seen only me, and fewer still have chosen me despite knowing everything I am. "I choose you," I said softly, "not because I am blind, but because I see you completely." The first real test came when his fleet was ambushed near the Tarsan Rift. Rogue mercenaries, armed with stolen quantum disruptors, had positioned themselves to take him out. Alarms blared. The crew scrambled. And yet, he remained calm, eyes scanning the holomaps with cold precision. "You should stay back," he said, noticing my hands twitch toward a nearby weapon. "I'm not staying back," I said firmly. "Not when you're out there risking everything." He studied me for a long moment. "Very well," he said finally. "Then stay close." The battle was chaos. Energy beams cut across the void, and ships exploded in brilliant showers of fire. I saw him move, fluid, precise, almost untouchable. Every strike he made saved lives, but there was no hesitation in taking lives when necessary. He was terrifying, yes, but he was also human, a protector in the truest sense. At the end of it, when the dust of battle cleared and the enemy retreated, he found me on the observation deck, unscathed but trembling from the adrenaline. "You followed me into fire," he said, awe evident in his tone. "Why?" "Because I choose you," I replied, letting the words echo in the empty deck. For the first time, he smiled fully, the smile of a man who had not been surprised or feared, but understood and accepted. "And I choose you, human, not because you are strong, but because you are fearless in a way few ever could be." Days later, alone in the quiet of his private quarters, he spoke again. "Do you understand what it means to be with me? To be chosen by the one the galaxy fears?" "Yes," I said. "I understand, and I do not fear it. I choose you. I choose us." He stepped closer, reaching out to brush my cheek. "And if I touch you now, you will be mine completely. The galaxy will tremble. My enemies will envy what I hold. My allies will question my judgment." I met his gaze without flinching. "Then touch me," I said softly, "because I am yours, but only because I choose it. Not fear, not legend, not destiny. Choice." His eyes widened. For a moment, the warden, the man who could command entire star systems with a glance, looked vulnerable. And then, slowly, deliberately, he touched my hand. The connection was immediate. A surge of warmth, of power, of unspoken emotion. His fingers intertwined with mine, not to control, but to join. You are extraordinary," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship. "And you," I said, "are terrifyingly human. And I want you. All of you." He pulled me close, and in the silence of that distant corner of space, the two of us became something new. Not legend, not fear, not myth. Just two souls, choosing one another amidst the stars, against the currents of history and expectation. "I am yours," he said finally, "but not by power,
by choice."
and that makes it far stronger than any fear could ever be. "I am yours," I replied, voice steady, "because I choose you, because I want you, and nothing else matters." For the first time in centuries, he allowed himself to be unguarded. The galaxy's greatest fear had found someone who saw him, not the myth, not the terror, but the man behind the armor. And in doing so, he had found something he had never imagined possible: trust, vulnerability, and a love born of choice, not fate. As the stars streaked past the viewport, I realized that legends could be rewritten, not by force, but by courage, honesty, and the willingness to choose. The galaxy feared him. I loved him. And together, we were unstoppable.